Talk Radio 77 WABC. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Friday, December 20th. Your forecast from the Ramsey Mazda Weather Center. We'll see some snow showers, then a mix of sun and clouds. The high going to be 38, and then the weekend's going to be on the cold side. Saturday, flurries in the morning, clouds in the afternoon, high 35, and then Sunday sunshine. The high is only going to be 25. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 32 and cloudy in New City up in Rockland County. It's 31 and cloudy in West Milford over in New Jersey. And it's 36 and partly cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. We got a lot to get to as we work our way up. 6 o'clock hour. Sid and Friends in the morning. Was just listening to Frank on the other side of midnight talk about the fact that his low tire light is on. And I have to think that the low tire light in my car, a low air tire or whatever you want to call it, is been on in my car for a month now. So now, after hearing about Frank, maybe I should go check it out just to make sure that I don't have anything going on. I've made it a month, but maybe I shouldn't risk that anymore. Luigi Mangione back in New York City. No doubt you saw this yesterday. Big hullabaloo as they brought him to the helicopter pad. Mayor Adams was there to watch him walk in an orange jumpsuit, all kinds of cops behind him, police with big guns in their hand. Winding out to more details about what led up to his allegedly shooting the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside the Midtown Hilton. Luigi Mangione apparently traveled from Georgia to allegedly stalk and then kill Thompson, and said that he targeted the healthcare industry because it checked, these are his words, it checked every box. That's one of a number of entries in a notebook in which the suspect discussed the plot in the weeks before the brazen crime. This all according to the federal criminal complaint, which was released yesterday. Mangione hit with 4 federal charges, including stalking, a firearms offense involving a silencer, murder through the use of a firearm, a charge that makes him eligible for the death penalty. So federal authorities charging him yesterday. Here's Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, who was part of all of this yesterday.
State prosecutions and federal prosecutions proceed as parallel matters, and we're in conversations with our law enforcement counterparts.
Yes, so the shooting took place, you'll remember, it was outside that Manhattan hotel on December 4th at a little bit after 6 a.m. The 26-year-old's attorney, he had a couple. One of them was outside the Pennsylvania courthouse where he was earlier in the day yesterday before he said he would no longer fight extradition and would come back to New York City. So one of his attorneys, Thomas Dickey.
We're going to move forward with a vigorous defense of these charges, and my mood hasn't changed one bit.
So in that Pennsylvania courtroom, he was in an orange jumpsuit with his hands cuffed, legs in shackles. He voluntarily waived that extradition. Supporters waiting outside the courthouse, and a lot of them, there was like 100 people waving signs supporting this individual who murdered a CEO in cold blood.
We are ready to do this now. We didn't do it before because we weren't ready. Today was the day to do it. This is in his best interest.
That's more from his lawyer. So he was extradited from Pennsylvania by plane and then helicopter here to the city. And when he landed on that helicopter pad, Mayor Adams was there, part of the detail, transporting him from lower Manhattan to meet with the judge that he was going to face.
We wanted to personally be here to show the symbolism of leading from the front. The apprehension.
Mayor Adams says young people across the country are being fed false information regarding the healthcare industry, regarding the assassination of the CEO of this healthcare, of United Healthcare. And he finds it a little bizarre, very bizarre, just like, well, most of the rest of us.
The radicalization that is taking place across our country, we cannot ignore. It is the continuation of our young people are crying out for help.
Yes, so there were these supporters who were out here in New York City as well with posters, a lot of them talking about the healthcare industry, and others really going all out and saying that they thought what Luigi Mangione did when he murdered Brian Thompson was okay.
I understand that we're going to disagree, but there's a systematic approach to how to do things, and murder is not one of them.
It's hard to think well of the CEO. I mean, he rose to the top of a kind of unethical industry, but who would decide that I'm worthy to be murdered?
Yeah, so more from some of these people who are outside the courthouse.
It's sad that they say it's okay.
They're facing reality, just they're in a la-la land.
I'm not surprised that there's a lot of support for him. So I definitely support the message. I don't support the act, for sure.
That's still strange to me. But according to this Emerson College poll that came out earlier this week, 68% of Americans say that the alleged shooter's actions were unacceptable, while 40% under the age of 30 say it was acceptable. Mangione, so making this initial appearance in Manhattan Federal Court yesterday afternoon, hours after the unsealing of the criminal complaint, he stepped into the packed federal courtroom for an appearance before Judge Catherine Parker. He answered yes to several questions from Judge Parker, but mainly during the entire hearing, he kept his head down, reading along as she summarized the charges in the complaint. Now, he did not enter a plea. His defense attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, says Mangione would not initially contest pretrial detention. He was then taken into custody. And so here he is back in New York as we wait to see how this is all going to play out. Yesterday, the Amazon drivers, some of them who are Teamsters, unionized, walking off the job. They're striking at Amazon facilities across the country. It's about pay, pension, and they say how they're being treated in the workplace. Some of the drivers speaking out yesterday.
We got an obligation to the customers when they order packages that they got to get delivered, and we're like the backbone for that. So we try to do our jobs as best as we can with what we're presented.
So this is one of those stories that's a little bit hard to follow. Amazon says it has no obligation to bargain with the drivers because they're not really officially employees. They're like third-party workers. So these picket lines that say that have gone up, they say, we don't have to work with these folks. And they say it's really not going to impact their operations, that packages are getting delivered. But these drivers say they're not being treated well, and that's why they joined the Teamsters Union, and they want better pay, and they want better benefits.
I mean, we can't predict the weather, We out here, rains, thunderstorm, anything. We're outside. Cold, hot, anything. We're here.
Yeah, so apparently they'll be back out on the picket line again today at one of the facilities, which is in Maspeth, Queens. WABC News Time 5:09. Let's go down to Washington. Congress scrambling to avoid a government shutdown. Members of Congress did announce on Tuesday that a deal had been reached ahead of today's deadline, but calls from President-elect Trump and Elon Musk apparently killed this bill.
The best path forward is the bipartisan agreement.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries there. Trump says the bill is bloated, has too many Democrats' bells and whistles, and now the pressure's on House Speaker Mike Johnson to come up with Plan B. Republican Congressman Steve Scalise, he's from Louisiana, explains why the measure was scuttled.
The ultimate goal is to get a bill that addresses our immediate needs, but also sets President Trump up for success when he comes into office.
Almost 40 Republicans voted against the 116-page proposal, which was supported by President-elect Trump. Democrats voted mostly along party lines opposing the bill that included disaster relief money, funding for farmers.
If a shutdown occurs because we do not pass this continuing resolution today, it will not be a Republican shutdown. It will be a Democrat shutdown. And when it goes over to the Senate, it will be the Schumer shutdown.
I always think that people's eyes sort of roll to the back of their head when I do these government shutdown stories because they always seem to get it done the last possible minute, and that might be the case a little bit later today. 5:10 down to Texas. Texas Governor Greg Abbott unveiling a new border strategy. It includes billboards that are being posted in South and Central America.
One asked families thinking about sending their kids here, how much did you pay to have your daughter raped?
Wow, that's wild, right? He says the billboards that are posted closer to the border warn of jail time for those crossing into Texas. They also highlight what will happen under the incoming Trump administration.
One says many girls who try to migrate to Texas are kidnapped. Another sign says, your wife and daughter will pay for their trip with their bodies.
They'll be in Spanish, but the governor says some will be in Chinese, Russian, and Arabic because you have all kinds of people crossing the border. He called it tough medicine. Governor Abbott says some of the signs will warn about cartel violence as well, and they hope it'll work. Meanwhile, a violent Venezuelan criminal gang making an appearance in a South Florida courtroom yesterday. Police claim at least one of its members involved in a recent Miami murder.
Absolutely. They're in Florida. They've been identified in numerous states. I've heard as few as 19, as many as 26 different states.
Bunch of these gangs, a number of them big ones from South America, apparently have made it to this side of the border, doing all kinds of things. Here's a retired FBI agent who's dealt with some of these Venezuelan gangs.
Not all Venezuelans are Tren de Aragua members, but where there's a Venezuelan community, there's very likely to be Tren de Aragua members, TDA members, inside the community. It's all across the board: sex trafficking, human trafficking, drugs, firearms, and they're doing it to all members of the community. That's why it's a national security risk.
And this agent has a suggestion to Florida and other places like here in New York where some of those gangs are of how to combat them.
If you deny that they're here, they're just going to hide in the shadows. It's opening the shadows, turning the light on, turning over rock, and allowing the individuals in the community to come forward, provide information to law enforcement, and feel comfortable that they will be protected.
WABC News Time, 5:12 from Florida. Let's go to Georgia. Fani Willis has been removed from the Georgia election case against President-elect Trump. Trump has consistently predicted that would happen.
See, when a system works, it's a beautiful thing, but she's been exposed. I can't imagine they can continue on with that case.
A state appellate court removed the Fulton County DA from Trump's 2020 election interference case yesterday. The decision likely to severely hinder efforts to try Trump and his co-defendants for allegedly trying to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. 5:13 in Oklahoma yesterday, they put an inmate to death. His name is Kevin Underwood. He first apologized to the family of the 10-year-old girl he kidnapped and killed in 2006 before they put him out. Jamie Boland's sister, Lori Pate, witnessed the execution along with her father and several other relatives.
This does not bring our Jamie back, but it does allow the space in our hearts to focus on her and allow the healing process to begin.
Now, Kevin Underwood, the man put to death yesterday, was upset that they made a decision to execute him on his birthday and 6 days before Christmas. He said that was needlessly cruel to do to his family. The Cleveland County District Attorney witnessed the execution, and afterwards he said that justice was done for Jamie, the little girl.
I'm hopeful that now that this process is over, that the family will be able to not worry about Kevin Underwood or think about him anymore, that they'll be able to remember Jamie and all the joy that she brought to you and your family. The death penalty in Oklahoma is reserved for the worst of the worst. And this case was exactly that.
And the DA there, Greg Mashburn, says, the death penalty in Oklahoma is reserved for the worst of the worst. And he says that's exactly what this case was. He says that Underwood deserved what happened to him yesterday.
When you have this type of facts and you have the actions that were taken, you have the beautiful life that was taken, then the ultimate punishment is warranted, and the jury agreed with that.
All right, 5:15 in a moment, we'll tell you about a move that American Airlines is making that some say is controversial. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Friday. Good morning, Justin Allen.
Happy Friday. Good morning to you, Noam Layden. Start here on the NBA hardwood, where Karl Anthony Towns had 32 points and 20 rebounds in his return to Minnesota, leading the inspired Knicks past the Timberwolves 133-107. Mikal Bridges scored 29 points for the Knicks, who built the lead as big as 36 in the third quarter and won for the 12th time in 16 games. Towns was the star, the subject of a loud ovation and a tribute video before the game highlighting his 9 seasons with Minnesota after being picked first overall by them in the 2015 draft. traded to New York just before training camp began for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. Towns clearly had a blast in his return to the from start to finish, I should say, as the Knicks romped their way to a 73-point first half. Randle had 24 points for the Timberwolves, who were outscored 37-8 over the first 9 minutes of the second quarter. Towns had 19 points in that period, his highest in any quarter this season. Josh Hart was scratched from the starting lineup for personal reasons, but one of the NBA's best offenses in the Knicks never missed a beat and shot 51.5% from the field. Up next for the Knicks, they'll be at New Orleans tomorrow. Up in Toronto, Cam Johnson hit a tie-breaking three-pointer with less than 2 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter and finished at 33 points, and the Nets overcame a 10-point deficit to beat the Raptors 101-94. Johnson scored 15 in the fourth as the Nets won for the second time in 8 games. Ben Simmons and Shake Milton each scored 12, and Noah Clowney had 11 for the Nets, who trailed 76 late in the third. The Raptors went up 90-88 with just under 3 minutes left, but Johnson answered with 11 straight points to give Brooklyn a 99-90 lead with 23 seconds remaining. Up next for the Nets, they'll host Utah tomorrow. Quick check-in on local NHL action as well. The Devils fell 4-2 to the Blue Jackets in Columbus last night. Up next for them, they'll host Pittsburgh tomorrow. Looking ahead to tonight, the Rangers return to the ice in Dallas to face off with the Stars at 8 p.m. To the NFL in Los Angeles. And Thursday Night Football, Justin Herbert passed for 284 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a go-ahead 19-yarder to Darius Davis early in the fourth as the Chargers rallied for a 34-27 victory over the Denver Broncos. Locally on the gridiron this weekend, your 2-12 Giants will head into Atlanta to battle the 7-7 Falcons as 8.5-point underdogs come 1 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. As for the 4-10 Jets, they're getting ready to host the LA Rams at the same time as 3-point home underdogs there. Finally, the college football playoff is set and ready to get underway starting tonight at 8 p.m. with 10-seed Indiana at 7-seed Notre Dame. The Irish head into that contest as 7-point favorites over the weekend. 11-seed SMU battle 6-seed Penn State tomorrow at noon with the Nittany Lions sitting as 8.5-point favorites. Following that action, it'll be 12-seed Clemson taking on 5-seed Texas at 4 p.m. with Texas entering as 12-point favorites. In primetime tomorrow night, it's 9-seed Tennessee at 8-seed Ohio State. 4 and 8 p.m. kickoff. OSU heads into that one as 7.5-point favorites. That's your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:19. American Airlines has reportedly agreed to end a controversial diversity program in hiring that Republicans have slammed as woke.
DEI has been tried over the past 20 years, and one of the things that we know is that it doesn't work.
Sherry Sylvester there with the Texas Public Policy Foundation says that a growing number of large companies are ditching DEI. American Airlines now joins Walmart and John Deere in rolling back the diversity policies.
Making people hyper-conscious about the race of their fellow workers do not make for a better workforce.
And Sylvester says that the trend will continue because companies are realizing that DEI just doesn't work.
They make the workplace tenser, and it breeds tension and frustration.
WABC News Time 5:20. The bald eagle is set to finally become America's national bird following an effort that's led by Minnesota's congressional delegation. I thought it already was, but apparently not. Ed Hahn of the National Eagle Center in Minnesota says it's about time it become the national
Here
bird.
we are for over 240 years. Probably just about every American you would ask, including those of us here at the National Eagle Center, just assumed that it was the national bird when, in fact, it was not.
Yeah, me there. Bill finally giving the bald eagle that official status, passing the House this week. It's been sent to President Biden for his signature.
From the money that's in our pockets on coins and dollar bills to postage stamps to brand names and logos, I mean, it is everywhere.
Yeah, right. The bald eagle has been on the Great Seal of the U.S. since 1782, but apparently just not the official bird. Now it will become that.
We see freedom. We see independence. We see power.
Yes, now they're just waiting for the president's signature. Lawyers for the Texas School District police chief who was in charge during the Uvalde school shooting want his criminal case moved away from the town where 19 students and 2 teachers were murdered.
They announced on Thursday that they'll file for a change of venue, telling a judge that they don't believe a fair trial would be possible in Uvalde. A separate motion to get the charges thrown out was denied. A tentative trial date has been set for October. I'm Brian Shook.
Drones, of course, continue to be spotted all over the country, a fair amount of them in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, also down in Texas now. Police in the Dallas suburb of White Settlement have been flooded with 911 calls about lights in the sky near the federal and military properties in that town.
If you buy a commercial off-the-shelf drone, it's not going to get in the air. The software is going to say, hey, you're in a no-fly zone. And so that's why we do not believe this is little Johnny who got a drone for Christmas.
Police Chief Chris Crook worries that one of these drones could inadvertently get in the flight path, take down a plane because it's right near an naval air station. And Lockheed Martin does some flying there.
We had multiple reports these drones were flying in formation. They're in close proximity to federal military properties, which certainly is concerning. We're working with FBI, we're working with Air Force, and also the Naval Criminal Investigative Service.
And just like here, the police chief down in Texas warning people not to try to shoot these drones down. The Supreme Court going to hear arguments over that law that would ban TikTok. Alina Habba, the incoming counsel to President-elect Trump, says TikTok has problems, but it can be fixed by the right person.
The right person for that job is President Trump. Unfortunately, Joe Biden is trying to get rid of it very quickly so that President Trump cannot save a platform that is widely used.
If you haven't been following this story, the law that requires ByteDance, which owns TikTok, to sell the popular video sharing app or be banned is set to go into effect on January 19th. The company asking the Supreme Court to block the law while it appeals a lower court ruling that upheld it. Oral argument's going to be heard in early January.
It has to comply with American security standards. It has to be, can't be a national security threat. And President Trump understands all of that.
Habba says Trump will work with TikTok to try to resolve those concerns.
He will be in communications with these people, unlike Joe Biden, and try and resolve the issue in a way that works for Americans.
Yes, the President-elect Trump has signaled that he may intervene to stop the ban once he's sworn back into office come January. On an average day, 170 million Americans go on TikTok. So can you imagine what it would be to ban TikTok? They first would have to go to the app providers and tell them to stop using it, but it would be a complicated process. And by the way, you'd have a lot of people who would be really unhappy that they don't have TikTok. The FBI investigating the death of an alleged unruly passenger on a cruise ship that was sailing to Los Angeles.
The man died last Friday while aboard a Royal Caribbean cruise ship called the Navigator of the Seas. The ship was sailing from Ensenada, Baja California to Los Angeles. There is a video of crew members restraining the man on the floor with towels. It's unclear exactly how long after being restrained the man died. The cause of his death is also unclear. I'm Daniel Martindale.
WABC News Time 525. Big Lots beginning its going out of business sales at all of its locations.
The retail chain has already closed more than 400 stores since filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and less than 1,000 are still open. In an email to employees, its president and CEO said pending store closures could be reversed if we successfully complete a sale, but he added a reduction in staff is necessary. I'm Brian Shook.
Christmas vacation really going to kick into high gear now. The city was just teeming with people last night. You could not move in Midtown. I mean, it was just so many people. The Christmas rush underway, especially at the airports. TSA predicts the holiday travel will exceed what it was during Thanksgiving, which, by the way, set records. Found some people waiting in line. This guy at LAX, Los Angeles International Airport, and he was saying actually the wait not too terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad. It looked like when we got in line, it's like, oh, God, this is going to be an hour. But it was like 5 minutes. It's not bad.
Of course, weather can change that. It's going to be cold here in the Northeast. The holiday crush comes as those freezing temperatures and some storms going to bear down on parts of the country. So you have people who were trying to get out early. These folks were with their 2 dogs flying.
I think they make things calmer. It's just nice to spend the holidays with your family. So just knowing that they're with us kind of makes everything a little smoother for us.
Talk Radio 77 WABC. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5:35. Good morning. It is Friday, December 20th. Your forecast from the Ramsey Mazda Weather Center. We'll see some snow showers this morning. Mix of sun and clouds in the afternoon. High 38. tonight. And then the weekend looks like this. Saturday, flurries in the morning, clouds the rest of the day, high 35. And then Sunday, really cold. Sunshine, but the high's only going to be 25. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 32 cloudy in New City up in Rockland County. 31 and cloudy in West Milford over in New Jersey. And it's 36 and partly cloudy outside our Midtown studios. We'll start this half hour down below on the subways. Remember earlier this week there was this power outage that left thousands of subway riders in Brooklyn stranded underground. And so they had to bring up some of those subway riders. Actually, that was late last week. They had to bring some of those riders up through emergency exits. And as they did, the MTA Inspector General says they found that some of these emergency exits weren't as well equipped as they should have been. Stairwells that did not have a handrail, things like that. Here's the MTA Inspector General, Daniel Kort.
This is particularly important here because it involves safety. I think the most important thing is the timeliness of the repairs. The repairs were not made within the 90-day period.
So the Inspector General says his office found the MTA often failed to make repairs with a designated 90-day period. There were like cracks in the sidewalks, stuff that just would make it dangerous for riders. Now, the MTA chair, the New York City subway president, pushing back against this report.
It was a little bit of, I think, I wouldn't say misleading, but to conflate things where there were temporary conditions.
If the unfortunate event comes that we have to evacuate, we're confident that we can do it safely.
But Passengers United President Charlton D'Souza says it's dangerous and downright acceptable that these emergency passageways don't have things like handrails. He says, what's going on?
It is scary, it's dangerous, and downright unacceptable. You have elderly people trying to do an emergency rescue, and there's no railing. That, to me, is a serious flaw.
Yeah, Office of Inspector General has now issued a series of recommendations for the MTA. Says it'll follow up to make sure those changes are made. New York's bravest, they're amazing. The FDNY rescuing a construction worker who fell down an elevator shaft in a high-rise building yesterday. They responded to this construction site at this apartment after a construction worker who was working off a portable ladder inside the elevator shaft fell. He fell to the bottom of the shaft. And so bring in these firefighters, and they were able to get down about 15 feet from the lowest level of the elevator shaft. They stabilized this guy. They were able to secure him with ropes in one of those baskets and then bring him back up to the top. And the good news is apparently he's going to be okay, but a good job done by the FDNY there yesterday. Over in New Jersey, some New Jersey American water customers say their water is coming out brown or has some sort of unusual taste or odor. The issue started late Wednesday night for customers who use the Raritan water system. Dozens of towns across Union, Middlesex, Somerset counties apparently have been impacted, and people said, yeah, actually, some people said they tasted the water, even though it was coming out a weird color, and, well, yeah, it didn't taste right.
I didn't smell anything, but I know it tasted not how it usually did, and I was kind of confused, but I didn't drink it the rest of the day because I was like, I don't know if I should drink this. So I just left it in my water bottle, and I dumped it out when I got home. Probably
a good idea. Neighbors who were worried about this, they were seen stocking up on bottled water and water jugs at local supermarkets yesterday. But American Water sending us this statement at about 5:30 last night saying the samples they tested met state and federal drinking water standards. And so they said if you have discolored water, run the cold taps at the lowest level for about 3 to 5 minutes until the water runs clear. And they say it's safe to drink. Governor Murphy, he was on News 12 last night. He does this thing called Ask the Governor. And you can guess that really the only thing anybody wanted to talk about in New Jersey, even all these days later, are the drones that are in the sky and what he knows about them. And he reiterated yesterday on News 12 that those drones you've seen starting back on November 18th when those complaints started to come in pose no threat.
It's a phenomenon unlike almost anything I've had to deal with. Let me just give the punchline. I want to be crystal clear about this. And now we could say this based on the most sophisticated drone detection systems on the planet that started to arrive in New Jersey last Friday and Saturday. There is no public threat here, period. I could say that unequivocally.
But the FAA is temporarily banning drones over New York's critical infrastructure sites. A bunch of towns in New Jersey, you can't fly them today. So he's asked about that, and he said that was just a precaution. At least that's what he was being told, that there was no concern on his part, and that people in New Jersey should go about their way. 5:42. Let's go out to Long Island. Tensions are rising in two Long Island communities following a disturbing resurgence of anti-Semitic incidents. Hateful symbols appeared in Montauk, anti-Semitic flyers circulating in Dix Hill. In Montauk, a bunch of people waking up to swastikas being sprayed. Here's some of those people.
This is not surprising. It's horrific. It's painful. And at the same time, we know that we're here again to come together in solidarity and unity.
Meanwhile, in Dix Hills, another form of hate appeared in the form of anti-Semitic flyers that were distributed earlier this week. The flyers come from an organization that the Anti-Defamation League has labeled a known hate group. They promote white supremacy, make inflammatory, baseless claims about Jewish people who are living on Long Island.
Unfortunately, this is not the first time we've seen this, and not even the first time on Long Island.
Jews have a right to live here, and to live here freely and safely, like every other community does. And today, Jews feel a little less safe.
Suffolk County Police Hate Crimes Unit investigating those flyers in Dix Hills. While we're out on Long Island, on a much lighter note, cops looking for the man who set himself in a porta potty on fire.
The suspect may not be named John, but he certainly got into it with the porta potty. It was around 4:30 a.m. this Saturday morning in a truly crappy ordeal caught on security camera outside a Levitt Town home. The footage shows a burst of flames coming from the porta potty and then the suspect running down Sprucewood Drive with his foot on fire. There's no truth, apparently, to the suggestion the guy yelled poop after the flames began. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
That James is a funny guy. 5:44, Mayor Adams' departing chief advisor being indicted in this long-running bribery conspiracy. We're learning more about this in case that involves Ingrid Lewis Martin. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg says Ingrid Lewis Martin took part in a scheme that started in 2022, influencing the buildings department, such as reversing denied permits in exchange for bribes.
The indictment unsealed today can be summarized in 3 words: quid pro quo.
She allegedly accepted more than $1,000 in cash, checks, and a Porsche for her son. Lewis Martin and her son, Glenn Martin, pleading not guilty to taking bribes and money laundering. 2 real estate developers also charged in the scheme. Prosecutors say Lewis Martin is also the target of several other criminal probes. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg says they're acting on these. They're getting more information out about them.
Serving at their pleasure to resolve whatever issues they had with DOB on their construction projects. And she did so without regard for security considerations.
Now her defense attorney, Ingrid Lewis Martin's defense attorney, Arthur Aidala, says she was simply doing what she's done thousands of times.
Since she was in the state senate office, since she was in the borough president's office, and since she was in City Hall. She helped a constituent. She helped a citizen navigate the thick red tape of city government.
WABC News Time, 5:45. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk and Justin Ellick.
Well, thank you, Noam Layden. We'll start here on the NBA hardwood where Karl Anthony Towns had 32 points and 20 rebounds in his return to Minnesota, leading the inspired Knicks past the Timberwolves 133-107. Mikal Bridges scored 29 for the Knicks, who built a lead as big as 36 in the third quarter and won for the 12th time in 16 games. Towns was the star, the subject of a loud ovation and a tribute video before the game, highlighting his 9 seasons with Minnesota after being picked first overall by them in the 2015 draft. Traded to New York just before training camp began for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. Towns clearly had a blast in his return from start to finish as the Knicks romped their way to a 73-point first half. Randle had 24 points for the Timberwolves, who were outscored 37-8 over the first 9 minutes of the second quarter. Towns had 19 points in that period, his highest in any quarter this season. Josh Hart was scratched from the starting lineup for personal reasons, but one of the NBA's best offenses in the Knicks never missed a beat and shot 51.5% from the field. Up next for the Knicks, they'll be at New Orleans tomorrow. Up to Toronto, where Cam Johnson hit a tie-breaking three-pointer with less than 2 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter and finished with 33 points. And the Nets overcame a 10-point deficit to beat the Raptors 101-94. Johnson scored 15 points in the fourth as the Nets won for the second time in 8 games. Ben Simmons and Shake Milton each scored 12, and Noah Clowney had 11 for the Nets, who trailed 76-66 late in the third. The Raptors went up 90-88 with just under 3 minutes left, but Johnson answered with 11 straight points to give Brooklyn a 99-90 lead with 23 seconds left. Up next for the Nets, they'll host Utah tomorrow. Quick check-in on local NHL action as well. The Devils fell 4-2 to the Blue Jackets in Columbus last night. Luke Hughes had a goal and an assist. Timo Meier scored, and Jake Allen stopped 16 shots for New Jersey, which had won 3 straight prior to the loss. Still atop the Metropolitan Division, the Devs peppered Columbus with quality shots, but their 2 late goals ultimately were not enough. Up next for Jersey, they'll host Pittsburgh tomorrow. Looking ahead to tonight, the Rangers return to the ice in Dallas to face off with the Stars at 8 p.m. To the NFL in Los Angeles and Thursday Night Football, where Justin Herbert passed for 284 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a go-ahead 19-yarder to Darius Davis early in the fourth quarter, and the Chargers rallied for a 34-27 victory over the Denver Broncos. LA, now 9-6, has a 97% probability of making the playoffs with the win. It can wrap up its second postseason berth in 3 seasons Sunday with losses by Indianapolis and Miami. Denver, also 9-6 here, could have clinched a playoff spot but had its 4-game winning streak snapped. The Broncos still have an 85% chance of making it, but they have tough remaining tests at Cincinnati on December 28th and at home against Kansas City in Week 18. Locally on the gridiron this weekend, your 2-12 Giants will head into Atlanta to battle the 7-7 Falcons as 8.5-point underdogs come 1 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. As for the 4-10 Jets, they're getting ready to host the LA Rams at the same time as 3-point home underdogs there. Finally, the college football playoff is set and ready to get underway starting tonight at 8 p.m. with 10-seed Indiana at 7-seed Notre Dame. The Irish head into that contest as 7-point favorites. Over the weekend, 11-seed SMU battles 6-seed Penn State tomorrow at noon, with the Nittany Lions sitting as 8.5-point favorites. Following that action, it'll be 12-seed Clemson taking on 5-seed Texas at 4, with Texas entering as 12-point favorites. In primetime tomorrow night, it's 9-seed Tennessee at 8-seed Ohio State for an 8 p.m. kickoff. OSU heads into that one as 7.5-point favorites. That's your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:50. Did you hear about the twerking porch pirate in South Jersey? This was one of 2 men who showed up on a porch in South Jersey to steal a package, realized that the Ring camera there was filming them, so they started to twerk. And then they ran off. Well, the neighbor who lost the package thought this video was great, posted it on social media, and it's gone viral. So this same individual came back 2 days later to talk to the doorbell camera and complain about the fact that they'd put up this video online.
Come on, dude. Not cool, bro. Come on. Not cool. Not cool at all. That's my on the internet.
So, of course, they took that video, and that's online now, too. Video shows 2 men in hoodies running up to a doorstep at this house in Sicklerville back on December 9th. One of them swipes this package while the other one taunted the Ring camera by twerking the package. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot in there. It was baby items and glassware worth $74. Not clear even cops are looking for this pair. The Christmas rush, of course, on at the airport. Linda Baccaro reports that officials expect air travel volume to exceed the Thanksgiving numbers, which were record-setting.
Across the U.S., 40 million flyers expected between today and January 2nd, with the busiest days projected to be December 20th, 27th, and the 30th. With extra volume at security, the key advice from the Transportation Security Administration, get to the airport early.
Security lines, of course, will be long. Some top TSA brass plan to actually work alongside the rank-and-file employees to get travelers through those lines. This comes as here in the East, we'll be dealing with freezing temperatures starting next week. TSA officer warning travelers about a bunch of things, like, don't bring a wrapped gift to the airport because they'll stop you in line for that.
Bring bags or boxes, gift boxes. Gift bags or gift boxes, because if they're wrapped, if anything's wrapped, it's going to be ripped by us.
And the general manager for New Jersey Airports, Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, also warning about the shortage of air traffic controllers, which we had over the Thanksgiving holidays.
They may need to reduce the number of arrivals and departures that can be accommodated on an hourly basis. And what happens when that happens is we do see delay programs.
Yeah, that's just what you want to hear when you're going out on vacation. And Port Authority says the record number of travelers going to head into the New York City area to use the airports, the bridges. Here's TSA spokesperson Lisa Farbstein urging flyers to get to the airport early.
It's going to just be a little more congested on the roadways. You're going to have a little more challenging time when it comes to finding a parking spot. Then, of course, when you're checking a bag, you can expect to see a line at
because if the gift item triggers an alarm, the TSA officers have to resolve that alarm. And the way to do that is to unwrap the gift. We would much prefer that the individual who's the recipient of the gift be the individual who gets to open it.
All right, 5:53. Dozens of Amazon workers expected to be back out on the picket lines this morning, including outside that facility in Maspeth, Queens. They want better pay. They want better pension benefits.
We're going to come out here and fight for what we deserve, whether it's before the Christmas season, whether it's before New Year's, whether it's before any holiday. We need what we deserve. That's the message.
Yeah, this is one of these complicated stories because Amazon says these Teamster drivers do not work directly for Amazon, so they can't even really negotiate with them. They're third-party drivers. So Amazon says they don't think this is really going to impact their operations. They say yesterday it did not do much, but the head of the union here in New York is saying that they think they will slow things down.
They are going to feel the power of the Teamsters, and there are people that they can bargain with right now. They are refusing to do so.
$40 an hour, like that's a start because it's a hefty job. It is.
Yeah, that's Latrice, who's an Amazon driver, who says she wants her pay to be just like that of UPS and FedEx drivers. Brooklyn Congresswoman Yvette Clarke talking about how mail theft has just become overwhelming. I mean, that's assuming you even really look at your mailbox anymore, but she has these constituents who've had all kinds of things stolen from the mailboxes over the last couple of years. She said incident after incident, things like IRS refund checks stolen, those kinds of things that can't necessarily be replaced. And she's calling on the Postal Service to do a better job of protecting the mail, calling on the cops to help as well.
Constituents, not only in the 9th District of New York, but across the city of New York, have been facing new sort of syndicate of crime that has to do with the U.S. mail.
Yeah, and you know those post office boxes where the postal workers put all the mail? You know, those ones that are not real mailboxes, they don't have an opening. People are ripping those things off in huge numbers, too, and they'll just rip through every single letter, put it in the back of their car, drive away, and see if they can find checks and that kind of thing. And usually they do. This woman, in fact, says she was waiting on an IRS check that was a refund check. That was $6,000 that never came.
Called IRS looking for the check. They told me the check was mailed. And I said I never received the check.
Yeah, so they said the check was cashed. So here she is. She says, I don't have the money. She says the IRS can't figure it out. And she wonders if she'll ever see that $6,000 that she says is owed to her. Meanwhile, the Congresswoman Yvette Clarke says the Postal Service has to do a better job. So do the police. So does everybody else, making sure the mail gets where it's supposed to be.
In some cases, it's easier to track down than others. When it's an IRS payment, it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, so they've had a tough time sort of sorting all that out in terms of with the IRS checks. There's a whole waiting period, so it's not even clear this woman will ever get that $6,000 that she's owed. And finally, all kinds of people lining up to get food. City Harvest telling us 1,000 people showed up to a food drive there just ahead of the holidays in Sunset Park. 40,000 pounds of food were given away to help what they call fight food insecurity.
We knew that this was an area of high need, and it has grown immensely during the last 12 months or so.
Prices are so high.
Yeah, and so this line was so long. City Council actually says about 20% of the people who live in Sunset Park are worried about where their next meal is going to come from.
Plan on flying? In order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a real ID. Learn how to get your real ID today at tsa.gov/real ID or visit your local DMV.